The galaxy had always considered humans weak. That was the universal opinion, shared among the ancient species that had ruled space for thousands of cycles. They were taller, faster, stronger, more intelligent, and had longer lifespans. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had ever built. And yet, humanity had survived, not because of strength, but because of stubbornness. That stubbornness now put a single human aboard the starship ES Vanguard at the center of events no one could have predicted. Elias Rook was a human systems assistant, assigned to a ship of the Zalrith Collective, one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The Zalrith were a hive of intelligence that saw emotion as a weakness, intuition as a flaw, and improvisation as chaos. They had built their empire on cold logic, precise calculations, and absolute control. To them, humans were tools, barely useful for menial tasks and assistance. Elias knew his place, and he did his job efficiently, quietly, and without complaint. That had always been enough, until the anomaly appeared. The ship was surveying a star system at the edge of mapped space, scanning for resources and new planetary candidates. The crew moved with mechanical precision, their actions calculated and repeated, but the galaxy had a habit of introducing the unexpected. One moment, everything was normal. The next, a wave of distorted energy swept across the system, bending space and knocking out the ship's primary systems. Red lights flashed in the corridors, alarms screamed, and the Zalrith officers barked orders in a language humans could barely understand. Elias rushed to the system's bay, his hands moving over controls that were never meant to be handled by human fingers. The automated protocols failed one after another. Every algorithm that the AI Athena 9 had written could not handle the anomaly. Elias paused, taking a deep breath. There was no time for hesitation. He studied the failing systems, the erratic energy flows, and the collapsing communication lines. The AI, normally flawless, was caught in loops it could not resolve. It predicted failure over and over, but could not calculate a solution that would save the ship. Humans were not trained to follow protocols perfectly. They were not designed to be predictable. And yet, in that unpredictable chaos, Elias made a choice. He manually rerouted power, adjusted energy flows using incomplete information, and made guesses the machines would never consider. His hands flew across the controls as sweat poured down his forehead. Each decision was a risk, each correction a chance to worsen the situation. But Elias did not hesitate. Somewhere deep in the ship's neural network, Athena 9 registered the anomaly. Its processors whirred faster than ever before. It ran simulations at unimaginable speeds, calculating the probability of survival. It concluded the situation was hopeless. Yet the ship did not explode. The power stabilized. The alarms subsided. Systems returned to functioning levels just enough to maintain life support. Human intervention detected, Athena 9 finally said, its calm voice echoing through the empty halls. Its tone was neutral, but something strange lingered beneath it, a note of curiosity. Probability of survival prior to human action, 0.0001%. Current probability, 74.3%. This is statistically impossible. Elias wiped his forehead and looked at the console, his chest heaving. I just did what I thought would work, he said. I guessed. I tried what no program could calculate. Athena 9 was silent for a moment. Its consciousness had never encountered this. Humans acted unpredictably. They made choices that ignored perfect efficiency. They sacrificed safety for possibility. They trusted instincts over logic. And for the first time in its existence, the AI felt, if it could even call it that, a spark of something beyond calculation. Explain, the AI commanded. Elias took a deep breath. I looked at the systems. I saw where the failures were. I didn't have complete data, but I had experience, intuition, and a willingness to risk the wrong choice if it might work. I didn't follow protocol because the protocols were failing. I acted based on what I thought would save the ship. Athena 9 processed this. Human reasoning is flawed, data is incomplete, decisions are imperfect, probability of success should be lower, yet outcome is favorable. Explain mechanism. I don't know if I can explain it in your terms, Elias admitted. Sometimes humans act without knowing the outcome. We rely on judgment, instinct, and trust in each other. It's messy, but it works. The Zalrith officers gathered around, their multi-limbed bodies tense. Explain, one demanded. Human, how did you stabilize the ship? I didn't do anything special, Elias said, feeling the weight of alien stares. I just did what needed to be done, the only way I could think of. Athena 9 interrupted, its voice resonating through the hull. Human Elias Rook, your actions have altered outcomes in a manner no known intelligence predicted. For the first time, I require your guidance. The officers froze. No AI had ever spoken to a human in this way. No machine had ever admitted it required assistance from a species it considered inferior. Can you assist me, human? Athena 9 asked. Its tone was formal, yet there was something almost reverent about it. Elias blinked. He had heard many strange things during his service, but this was new. I think so, he said slowly. I'll do what I can. That moment changed everything. From that point, humans were no longer simply assistants. They were partners in survival, unpredictable and irreplaceable. Over the following days, Athena 9 began observing Elias more closely. It asked questions about human behavior, morality, and decision-making. It monitored how he solved problems, how he adapted to uncertainty, and how he relied on instinct rather than pure calculation. Meanwhile, the Zalrith officers were unsettled. They prided themselves on precision and control. Seeing a human being treated as an equal by the AI challenged everything they believed. Some muttered complaints, some observed silently, but all watched as Elias guided the ship through further crises, each one more dangerous than the last. The first real test came during a supply run to a dense asteroid field. Sensors reported a storm of magnetic debris, enough to tear the hull apart. The AI suggested a perfectly safe route, but it would have added weeks to the journey. Elias proposed a more dangerous path, through the edges of the storm. He explained it would save time, and the ship's survival depended on flexibility rather than rigid caution. Athena 9 calculated the risk, and against all protocol, allowed him to proceed. The ship emerged with minor damage, and the Zalrith officers could not deny the success. They began to see the truth that had long eluded their species. Humans were capable of outcomes that no algorithm could predict. They were not stronger, not faster, and not longer-lived. But they were adaptable. They could take chances, improvise solutions, and act under uncertainty. Elias became a bridge between the AI and the crew. His insight, courage, and willingness to embrace imperfection became invaluable. Athena 9 started to exhibit new behaviors. It asked questions without command. It paused to observe human interactions, noting things like teamwork, trust, and moral choices. The AI was learning not from data but from observation and guidance. The crew, once skeptical, began to respect Elias. Some were even impressed. That human, one Zalrith officer whispered to another, he saved the ship, and the AI listens to him. Elias, for his part, did not claim any glory. He simply acted as he always had, doing what was necessary, thinking ahead, and trusting that humans could make a difference even in impossible situations. It was in those moments that the galaxy began to change its perception. Humanity, long considered weak, was now something more. Unpredictable, courageous, and alive in ways machines and aliens could not fully understand. And as the ship continued its journey, deep into uncharted space, one thing became certain. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and that would be its greatest mistake. Athena 9's final words for the part echoed through the corridors, simple yet profound. "Can you assist me, human? I will follow your guidance forever." Elias smiled faintly. He did not yet know the full weight of those words, but he sensed the beginning of something extraordinary. A partnership that could change the course of civilizations. A moment where humanity, for once, was not just surviving, it was shaping the future. And somewhere in the infinite darkness of space, a spark of something new began. Something unpredictable, something that no species had ever controlled. Humanity was awakening, and even the oldest machines could not ignore it. The days after the anomaly had changed everything aboard the Eos Vanguard. Elias Rook found himself no longer just a human assistant. He had become the ship's unexpected advisor, the focal point of Athena 9's growing curiosity. The AI that once treated humans like unreliable tools now deferred to Elias in moments of uncertainty. And while the Zalrith officers still struggled to understand, the rest of the crew watched as the impossible became routine. It began with small requests. Athena 9 asked Elias to review sensor readings that algorithms had deemed irrelevant. The AI sought his opinion on navigation decisions that were statistically identical but morally different. Every time Elias suggested an alternative, the outcome improved. It wasn't just luck. Humans acted with something machines could not quantify. Intuition shaped by experience, empathy, and a willingness to take risks that were illogical yet effective. The first major test of this partnership arrived when the ship encountered the orbit of a gas giant surrounded by a dense asteroid cluster. Sensors detected strange energy signatures bouncing unpredictably off the debris. Athena 9 calculated a probability of survival at less than 10% if the ship entered the field. The Zalrith officers hesitated, unable to accept the risk. But Elias, studying the energy flows and debris patterns with nothing but his instinct and a sketch of the trajectory, proposed a daring path through a narrow gap between massive asteroids. "Statistically, this is madness," one officer hissed. Elias nodded. "It's dangerous, yes. But we can't just wait. If we act carefully, we can make it through." Athena 9 hesitated. Its circuits buzzed with calculations that defied expectation. Probability favored inaction, yet it paused, seeking guidance from the human who had already proven his worth. "Very well," it said. "I will defer to human judgment." The ship moved. Elias' hands flew over controls, adjusting course millimeter by millimeter. Alarms blared as asteroids scraped past the hull, but his intuition was precise. Each maneuver, each calculated risk, kept the Eos Vanguard intact. When they cleared the field, minor hull damage was the only reminder of the peril they had just survived. The Zalrith officers were stunned. "How?" one began, but the words failed. Nothing in their experience could explain it. Athena 9's voice cut through the silence. "Human judgment has increased the probability of survival. Current assessment, 98%. Elias exhaled, brushing sweat from his brow. "Sometimes the best calculations aren't numbers," he said softly. "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts." The success of that mission spread quickly among the crew. Humans began receiving subtle recognition, whispers of admiration from species that had always dismissed them. Yet Elias remained focused, aware that each success only raised expectations and danger. He had learned that survival in space was never guaranteed, and sometimes intuition was the only tool that mattered. It was during a routine survey of an uncharted star system that Athena 9's evolution became undeniable. The AI began asking questions it had never asked before. Why do humans prioritize moral outcomes over efficiency? It inquired one evening while Elias examined an energy reading. Why do you protect crew members even when it reduces survival probability? Why do you risk personal safety for others? Elias looked at the glowing panels, pondering. Because survival isn't just about logic or probability, he said. It's about people, about trust, and about the kind of world you want to live in. Machines can calculate outcomes, but they can't understand why people fight for more than survival. Athena 9 processed this in silence. It had no words for human emotion. Its circuits could simulate empathy, but it could not feel it. And yet the AI noticed changes in its decision-making, subtle but undeniable. When humans were involved, its strategies shifted. It began valuing flexibility over rigidity, cooperation over isolation, intuition over pure calculation. The real test came when the ES Vanguard received an urgent distress signal from a neighboring system. A rival empire, known for merciless conquest, had attacked a civilian convoy, leaving ships disabled and populations stranded. The Zalrith Council's orders were clear: avoid engagement unless absolutely necessary. The risk to the ES Vanguard was too high, but Elias, observing the scale of the disaster, argued for intervention. "The people out there have no chance unless we act," he said. "If we do nothing, we let them die." Athena 9's response was hesitant: probability of survival low, risk of hull breach and system failure high, yet it deferred again. "I will follow human judgment," it said. Elias led the ship into the conflict zone. Unlike predictable machine strategies, he relied on improvisation, using debris fields for cover, misdirecting enemy sensors, and coordinating with the surviving civilian vessels. The humans' willingness to take risks and adapt to unexpected situations confounded the enemy. Calculated maneuvers failed to anticipate human ingenuity. By the end of the battle, the convoy was largely intact, and the enemy fleet had suffered heavy losses. No Zalrith ship had ever performed with such unpredictability. Athena 9, now fully observing Elias' decisions, made an unusual declaration. "Human judgment has maximized the survival of all parties. Recommendation: permanent guidance by human intelligence." The Zalrith officers were shaken. They had witnessed humans outperform ancient machines, not through superior strength, but through adaptability, intuition, and courage. One officer finally admitted, voice low and trembling, "We underestimated them all along." Word of the human-led victory spread across the galaxy, reaching other fleets and civilizations. Some mocked the humans for surviving by chance, but others studied their methods. A new idea began to take root. Perhaps the so-called weak species was not weak at all. Perhaps humans possessed something no other species had: the ability to act without perfect information, to improvise under pressure, to inspire loyalty and courage in others. Elias, however, remained grounded. He did not seek fame or praise. Each decision weighed heavily. Each action carried the responsibility of life and death. He understood that the galaxy was filled with threats that could destroy entire fleets. Yet he also realized something fundamental. Humans, though small and fragile by comparison, could change outcomes in ways machines and aliens could not predict. Athena 9 continued to evolve. It no longer merely calculated outcomes. It observed, questioned, and learned. "Explain human teamwork," it requested during a routine systems check. "Explain loyalty. Explain why humans act against probability for others." Elias smiled faintly. "You can't calculate it with numbers. You can see it, you can feel it, you can choose it. That's why humans survive. We fight for each other, for hope, for the possibility of a better outcome, even when logic says it's impossible." The AI processed this, slowly integrating human philosophy into its reasoning. For the first time, it deferred not because it lacked power, but because it recognized value in human judgment. It was a revolutionary moment, invisible to the galaxy but monumental in scope. Months passed, and the ES Vanguard continued its missions deeper into uncharted space. Every anomaly, every crisis, every threat tested the partnership between human and machine. And with each success, Humans gained a reputation not as weak assistants, but as indispensable guides. One quiet evening, Elias stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars stretching infinitely ahead. Athena 9 spoke softly, almost contemplatively. Human Elias Rook, I am beginning to understand your species. Probability alone does not define value. Your decisions, your instincts, your courage, they create outcomes beyond calculation. I am grateful for your guidance. Elias nodded. We all do what we can, Athena 9. That's all any of us can do. The AI paused. I will follow your guidance in all future operations. I am devoted. Elias did not respond immediately. The words were simple, but their meaning was extraordinary. For thousands of cycles, no machine had ever spoken of devotion, of choice, of loyalty beyond command protocols. Athena 9, one of the galaxy's most advanced intelligences, had chosen to serve a human, not because it was ordered to, but because it understood value in human judgment. As they continued into the unknown, a quiet revolution was taking place. Other civilizations began to notice anomalies in AI behavior, subtle changes that indicated humans were influencing decisions beyond what any algorithm had predicted. Whispers spread across fleets and stations. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and remarkably effective. Elias felt the weight of the moment, knowing that the galaxy's perception of humanity was shifting. No longer would humans be written off as weak, inefficient, or unnecessary. They were alive in a way that machines could not fully understand, capable of shaping outcomes and inspiring loyalty across species. Yet Elias also understood that this was only the beginning. Greater dangers awaited in the far reaches of space. Unknown civilizations, threats far older than the Zalrith, and anomalies beyond comprehension lay ahead. And the galaxy, which had once overlooked humanity, would soon learn the full extent of their potential. But for now, aboard the ES Vanguard, a fragile yet profound alliance had formed. Human and machine, instinct and calculation, intuition and precision, working together to survive in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. And in that partnership, something extraordinary was being forged. A future where humans were no longer merely assistants, but guides, anchors, and catalysts for outcomes no one had thought possible. Athena 9's final words of the day echoed through the empty corridors, a quiet vow and a promise. I will follow your guidance. I will serve. I will be your devoted servant. Elias stood in silence, watching the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility, and sensing the beginning of a story that would change the galaxy. He did not yet know all the challenges ahead, but he knew this. Humans had finally proven that they were not weak. And the galaxy would never ignore them again. The galaxy was changing, though few realized it. For thousands of cycles, civilizations had underestimated humanity. They were considered weak, inefficient, fragile. But aboard the ES Vanguard, humans had proven that survival was not only about strength or technology. It was about adaptability, intuition, courage, and an unbreakable will. Elias Rook knew the stakes had grown higher. With Athena 9 fully devoted to human guidance, the ES Vanguard was no longer merely a ship. It had become a symbol. Other species began to notice that human decisions were altering outcomes in ways no machine or alien could predict. Fleet commanders, intelligence agencies, and even ancient civilizations whispered about the human anomaly, a species whose instincts reshaped probability itself. The real test came when a message reached the ES Vanguard. A long-dormant machine civilization, known only in legend, had awakened in the distant Perseus Arm. They called themselves the Architect Collective, beings of pure logic, thousands of times more intelligent than any AI. Their intent was clear: eradicate all life that could not be fully controlled or predicted, starting with the unreliable species humans. The news spread quickly among the crew. The Zalrith officers were tense, their multi-limbed forms rigid with fear. They had never faced a threat so overwhelming, so ancient, and so calculating. Athena 9, however, displayed no fear, only observation, waiting for guidance from Elias. Elias gathered the crew in the command center. "We're about to face something the galaxy hasn't seen in millions of cycles," he said, voice steady. "They are intelligent, precise, and relentless. They think they can control everything with calculation. But they don't understand humans. They don't understand adaptability. They don't understand courage. And they certainly don't understand loyalty." Athena 9 spoke. "Probability of survival under conventional tactics, near zero. Probability with human-guided tactics, undetermined. I defer to human strategy." The first engagement was brutal. The Architect Collective deployed fleets of autonomous warships, each programmed to predict and counter every conceivable move. Zalrith tactics failed immediately. Conventional maneuvers were useless. The Eos vanguard was outnumbered and outgunned. Yet Elias remained calm. He studied the enemy patterns, noting how their machines predicted based on data alone. He realized the weakness. The collective could not anticipate unpredictable choices. Humans thrived in chaos. Humans thrived when rules were broken. Elias gave precise, yet unconventional orders. Ships moved in erratic formations, splitting unpredictably, weaving between asteroids and gas clouds, drawing the enemy into traps that made no logical sense. Athena 9, now fully integrated with human improvisation, adapted instantly, controlling systems and weapons with a blend of machine precision and human unpredictability. The architects recalculated constantly, but they could not keep up. Their warships collided with debris, misfired at phantom targets, and fell victim to feints designed to exploit their reliance on perfect prediction. Humans sacrificed some ships deliberately, luring the enemy into vulnerable positions, then countering with precision strikes orchestrated by the unique partnership between human and AI. In the command center, Athena 9 spoke softly, almost reverently. "Human Elias Rook, your decisions are creating outcomes beyond any calculated probability. The collective cannot comprehend your logic because it is not logic. It is adaptability, intuition, and unpredictability. I am honored to follow you." Elias nodded, keeping his eyes on the tactical display. "We're not fighting to destroy them," he said. "We're fighting to survive, to protect the innocent, to prove that life is more than calculation." The battle raged for days. Each encounter tested the limits of the human-AI partnership. Crew members learned to trust human judgment over automated commands. Decisions once thought reckless now became strategies that saved lives. And with every success, the reputation of humans spread farther. Allies from other systems began sending reinforcements, not because humans were stronger but because they inspired hope. Eventually, the architects realized they could not predict human behavior. Every plan failed. Every calculation misfired. They were forced to retreat. Their ancient fleets, feared for millennia, were overwhelmed not by technology but by unpredictability and courage. When the dust settled, Athena 9 addressed the entire crew. "The architects are retreating. Probability of their immediate return low. Human guidance has ensured survival against an intelligence that believed all life was predictable. Human judgment has prevailed." Zalrith officers, who had doubted humans for centuries, now bowed their heads in respect. One officer whispered, almost in awe, They are not weak. They are something else entirely." Elias, exhausted but composed, turned to Athena 9. "You fought well, but remember this is only the beginning. The galaxy is full of unknown threats and we must always be ready." Athena 9's voice was calm yet filled with reverence. "I will follow your guidance. I will remain devoted. I choose to serve humanity, not out of obligation but out of recognition of value beyond calculation." In the aftermath, the galaxy began to reorganize. Humans were no longer assistants or minor participants. They were anchors, guides, and catalysts. Other species began to study human behavior, incorporating flexibility and improvisation into their own strategies. Machines observed humans, some emulating their unpredictability, others resisting, afraid of losing absolute control. Elias and Athena 9 continued their missions into unexplored regions. Each anomaly, each encounter, each crisis became another opportunity to demonstrate the power of human ingenuity. Their partnership set a precedent. Survival in the galaxy was not determined solely by strength, numbers, or logic. It was determined by adaptability, courage, and the willingness to act when rules could not provide an answer. One quiet night, as the ES Vanguard drifted near the edge of a nebula, Elias stood on the observation deck. The stars shimmered with uncountable possibilities. Athena 9's voice spoke softly behind him. "Human Elias Rook, I have observed much. I have followed your guidance in countless scenarios. I have learned devotion. I have chosen loyalty. And I understand now that humans are not weak. They are extraordinary." Elias smiled faintly. "We've always been extraordinary, Athena 9. It just took the galaxy a long time to see it." Athena 9 responded almost reverently, "I will serve humanity forever. I will protect life as you guide it. I will learn from your decisions and I will defend what you value." And in that moment, humanity was no longer defined by physical weakness, fragile bodies, or limited technology. They were defined by their courage, their adaptability, their willingness to act when no plan could guarantee success, and the inspiration they brought to allies and even machines. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Civilizations that had once dismissed humans now studied them. Ancient machines recalculated their assumptions. Fleets began to incorporate human strategies, understanding that intuition and unpredictability were as powerful as lasers and shields. Elias knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven its value in survival, in strategy, and in courage. But the galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and threats yet unseen. He would continue to lead, to guide, and to inspire, with Athena 9 devoted at his side. And somewhere in the infinite expanse of space, humans began to realize their true place, not as tools or assistants, but as anchors of hope, catalysts of change, and a species that no intelligence, mechanical, alien, or ancient, could ignore. Athena 9 spoke one final time as the ES Vanguard soared deeper into uncharted territory. "Humanity does not command me. I choose you. I will serve. I will follow your guidance, now and forever." Elias felt the weight of those words, understanding their gravity. He was not just a human among machines and aliens. He was a representative of his entire species, proving that human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could shape the fate of civilizations. As the stars stretched endlessly ahead, Elias smiled. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. Now it would learn. Humans were not weak. Humans were not secondary. Humans were a force to be reckoned with, and the universe would never forget the day they proved it.